You're going to learn something, and I'm telling you, you're going to learn something because 95% of the field doesn't get this. ICM is for poor people. You may have heard this before, and a lot of people say it without really understanding what they mean. So I'm going to show you why ICM is for poor people and why you need to be thinking a little bit deeper than just what the sim says, especially if you're using programs like GTO Wizard, where they don't incorporate any future game. But even still, in No Limit Hold'em MTTs, future game is sort of a, let's put it this way, ICM sims are pretty much broken, but so are future game sims to a degree. With that said, some future sims have better results than ICM sims. So what we're going to do is look at a few relevant spots where you are going to want to incorporate some FGS into your study. Before I get into that, just a quick intro for those of you who are joining me fresh and new. My name is Ryan, aka New Guy 89. Played No Limit Hold'em, Sit and Goes tournaments, cash, satellites, pretty much every format for the last 15 years. Made 7 figs. So yeah, done well. As a sit and go player, this is one of the things that we pretty much had to know in order to win. And if you didn't know this, you were most definitely losing pre-rake back. Most likely. But yeah, anyway. 2 hands here. Let's go first one. So common spot. You're at the final table. You've got a pretty short stack. You can see UTG here. We're sitting on 6.7 bigs. And action is on us. Do we open? Do we fold? Whatever. I'm not looking at a hand here as far as like, what do we do with King 10 or Queen 9. I'm just looking at the overall range because I want to show a comparison from an ICM sim to a future game sim. And just take a moment to take note of the stacks here. So there is a stack that's got about half our size. And we're shoving a pretty tight range as a result of that. You can see like the lowest pairs, they're out. 9x suited block mostly out. King Jack offsuit out. Ace 9 offsuit out. Some of the hands that you would probably expect to be standard opens are folding. And this is the ICM model. Now, remember what I said about ICMs for poor people? Yeah. So if you play ICM in these spots, you're playing too tight. This is the FGS model, using FGS1 as the simulation. If you want to run like an FGS 6 sim, it's probably going to take about, I don't know, a dozen plus hours. So good luck with that. But this will give us at least some approximation of what we should be doing, which is opening wider. Under the gun folds 81.4% compared to an ICM sim of 85.3. And you can see how, of all the spots that you get when a big blind is coming up next hand, it's going to compound a lot into your future gains. And now you're starting to see why, when I said sit and go regs that didn't do the FGS adjustments, probably were losing pre-rake back. Yeah, this is why. Most sit and go spots, you're going to be 2, 3, 4, 5-handed max when ICM's at play or when stacks are short. And as a result, you're going to have to be playing a little bit looser than what ICM models suggest. So with that said, right off the bat, we have some clear evidence that ICM is going to be potentially a little bit too tight. The most important spots are going to be when the big blind is coming up next hand or in a couple hands, and especially when you're short stacked. Additionally, you want to watch for when the blinds are increasing, because now if the blinds increase on your next big blind, that's effectively even a bigger dent into your future EV. So do keep that in mind. If the blinds were to increase, this range would likely expand a little bit more. I'm not going to show that test, but it's something that I'm going to lead you guys in the direction of for your study, and you can experiment with these things yourself. There is a feature in HRC of how to there's a feature in HRC on setting the blinds up for the next hand or the next in two hands, basically. You can do it in future hands. So, future game sims. Pretty important when you're short. Now, again, disclaimer, like, I'm not claiming this is the holy grail of MTT poker and you're now going to print money with this, but you're definitely going to improve your EV if you are incorporating this into your short stack game. It's a lot harder to conceptualize what we're supposed to do with the idea of future game once post flop gets involved and we're deeper stacked. There's a lot of prevailing theories on this and what to do, how to think about spots, but stuff that the ICM model doesn't necessarily capture. Ultimately, it's going to be on you guys to kind of wade through that, as we only have the theory and we don't have sims that, you know, project future game 200 hands into the future in a tournament. It's just, it doesn't exist. But at least here, with stacks relatively short, this model is going to be more reliable because the game tree is much more simplified and a lot of your action is just all in. So that was hand one. ICM model has us too tight, and that's even when there is a shorter stack. I know it's tempting to just fold and like bleed into the next space and just bleed and enjoy bleeding and your wallet bleeding as well with you, but it's like you guys have a relationship of bleeding together, so it's okay. It's not okay. Just try to gain some EV if your goal is to move up or to stay in this game for a while. This is one of the ways you can do it. Now, one of the mental blocks that people have when it comes to open shoving something like ace 9-0 here, when the ICM model says, just fold me, what you want to think of is like, okay, the outcomes of this hand are I raise and I take the blinds down, and then I increase my tournament equity, I increase my stack. I can survive another orbit or two with ease or with more ease. The other outcome is you jam and you get called and you lose, which sucks, and that's painful. And a lot of times in tournaments, when we bust, it doesn't really matter that much, but for whatever reason, it sticks with us. And a hand that's super standard, it may end up tipping us to want to play it differently, even though it's completely fine. Because what we often forget is the outcome where you raise and get called, and then you win your flip, and now you're likely to finish in like the top 3 positions at a much higher frequency. And that's just one of the outcomes of the game tree of opening the pot. Often forgotten when we bust it out, but it's something to just keep in mind. Like, yeah, it sucks when you jam a little wider than what the ICM model suggests and you get snapped off, but ultimately that's only focusing on the one negative outcome, whereas there are 2 other positive outcomes that happen, and you know they happen relatively frequently, so don't forget. All right, let's move on to this next hand. So we are okay, well, we're gonna look at a couple of things here. So under the gun's got 1.5 bigs, and the rest of the table mid stacked, 1 big stack at the table, and then the small blind has basically a chip. They've got like half a big blind after posting. This is a spot where things actually work in reverse. So this is the ICM model, and against, say, a button open, small blind calls any 2 cards. Against a cutoff open shove, small blind calls any 2 cards. Against a hijack open, min open, they call any 2 cards. You guys get the idea. Now, here's the thing, right? UTG has 1.5 bigs. And the next hand is the big blind, and the hand after that is the small blind. Are you following? UTG is going to be forced all in next hand, unless he's deciding that he's somehow going to fold and then be forced all in his small blind. So no matter what, he's going to have to be all in within the next 2 hands max. And then he's going to lose that flip X percentage of the time, and small blind's going to be able to get a ladder. Keep in mind, this is the final table. We're in the money, so there is the laddering possibility. With that said, small blind has very, very good pot odds, and as you can see, the ICM model really likes to take that into account and just calls everything, and it's all pretty profitable call, as you can see. But once we add a little FGS, now small blind's folding the bottom 20% of the deck. And I think this is a spot where people can get carried away and fold like the bottom 60% of the deck or something. But really, like, you're getting insane pot odds. Like, don't forget, when you're getting 5-1 or whatever it is, I think it's around 5-1. Kind of late here right now, but math is hard. You get insane pot odds, so like, you got to take your odds, guys. Don't just fold because you feel like it. But strategically, it makes sense to just start pitching the bottom of the range. What's happening is you need a higher value threshold to call in order to justify the cost of foregoing the future action where you fold and then the big blind's forced all in next hand. So there's a little bit of a premium needed. Now you can see the small blind, like, what was the... Okay, so 7-5 off is about 0 in the FGS model. And 7-5 off's worth like 0.33. Yeah, it's worth like 0.33% of the prize pool. And I guess like that's roughly what you're looking at as far as a number to quantify it. I can't sit here and tell you like what a hand is worth when playing. It's more or less just a reference guide when studying to see just how much something is worth. Like, we can see ace X is worth heaps. There's no way we would fold it, but a hand like 7-5, it's extremely thin. Yeah, just scrolling down the list here, like hijack open. Now you can see the small blind's only calling 40%. What's going on here? Well, the hijack open is extremely tight. If we just go to his open range, very tight, very polar range. Yeah, just like there's not that much to say about it. You're pretty crushed. But in this model here, it's still just putting in ATC, which is like kind of mind-boggling because to me this is super logical. Like, if someone opens a polarized range with queens plus, jacks plus, like, we in chips, yeah, like we go for it, but we're not thrilled about just losing this tournament over half the time when the under the gun player has forced all in action within the next couple hands. So yeah, hopefully that when you guys are playing tournaments, you're thinking about these things and practicing with HRC using FGS models to help shape up like how we're supposed to be adjusting and what our strategy shifts are going to look like, because these are pretty drastic. Not so much against the button, because the button has a massive opening range. Yeah, button's opening north of, well, it's a split range, but total open is almost 70%. And in this case, compared to the hijack's opening like not even 20%. So yeah, ICM is for pours. Get HRC or some equivalent where you can run FGS sims and compare them to ICM models to help build your intuition so that you can sharpen up your game. This is something that 95% probably of the field does not apply because, let's face it, they're only studying off GTO Wiz charts because they're lazy or whatever, and they haven't quite gotten up to speed with this. I do think GTO Lab has future game sims though. I'm not sure. I just prefer to run my own sims because then I know the inputs. Um, a rabbit hole for another day would be the post-flop sizings that you use impact pre-flop strategy. So maybe if there's some interest, we'll do some topics on that. But yeah, I run my own sims. I have control over it. I can tweak it how I want. And I find that it builds my intuition better when I pick hands that I played and run them myself and answer whatever questions I have, compare different models, ICM to future game sims. You guys get the idea. So hopefully that was informative. I do have 2 ICM courses. I'll leave the links in the description below. One is for the bubble of MTTs. I talk about how to apply FGS from like a theoretical standpoint in that course. Although when you're in the bubble and let's say there's 100 players paid, you really can't run this in HRC because you can't do FGS models on multiple tables. But with all the work I've done with sit and goes, and I smashed sit and goes for years, so that's helped me at least shape up a little bit of a mindset or a strategy, a game plan on how to approach bubble spots when it comes to applying FGS when we're not able to actually model it. And the other course I have is the MTT Satellite Course. So those are over at BBZ. Feel free to check them out. Links in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Good luck out there. Remember, ICM is for poors, but also remember it is the best we got in most cases. So what we want to do is we want to think about how to apply the concept of future game to each spot. And we can use HRC sims like this, where it's a one table model, to give us a little bit of an intuition, a little bit of some guidance on how things work.